Come in this room. Come touch me. Oh my God!
Touch. One of the 5 senses that helps guide us through our lives. It brings us warmth and comfort, like a newborn to their mother's chest. Or the pain and suffering until the very last moment's death forces us to receive our final goodbyes. But what's after death? Is there the possibility of touch? If so, can we feel it? What does it mean when one is touched by these invisible forces, believed to be ghosts?
I think you're on the right path. I think you're at kind of a precipice where you can clearly show that humans have an experience that has an objective piece to it, which at the very least should get other scientists interested in looking at that question.
My whole research process is trying to bring in a more scientific basis.
People need to understand that this is not just your bells and whistles that you see on ghost hunting shows. This is real science.
This is a real thing that we're looking for.
It was here in D Block that changed everything for me and for you.
Hey, you in the corner here. That's just people. You around here? Really?
At the exact time that I was scratched, looking at the larger data set, you can see anomalies in the PIR and ultrasonic sensors. You can use that data to then create an animation showing what happened in approximate real time.
When dealing with the paranormal, you have to be prepared for just about anything when the spirits are truly the ones in charge. For the first time in history, our journey into this untapped realm has only just begun.
Welcome to Paranormal Gateway Talk. I'm the Scott Wise, and tonight's guests are Allison and Goodwin. Tonight we'll be talking about their latest experience proving the existence of supernatural physical contact, which led to a documentary based on its concept called PARASENSE, the Naked Experiments. They focus attention on physical aspects, ghosts actually touching and living. The struggle to prove this phenomena takes its crucial turn when real scientist and inventor Goodwin joins the team as they take naked subjects into the most haunted known for supernatural physical contact. For the first time in history, his encounter has been thoroughly investigated and exciting evidence is being discovered. So without further ado, let's welcome Ross and Chad to the show. Hey, here you are.
Yeah. Hey, hello.
Thanks for having us.
Sure. Anytime. I should be him one because when I seen him do the experiment himself, I said, "Oh boy, he just dived right into it."
Yeah.
I really don't know if I got far. I would get that done by skippies, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I had to do it. I had to make sure that I knew what we were looking for. So I got in there.
And it really does take unique individuals that are willing to get naked and, hang out in a haunted place all alone, so kudos to him.
Well,
I haven't done it yet.
I think they'd be doing it maybe a few shots, but you shouldn't be drinking on location probably.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah.
I might take that from me. Ross, you start off again. I know I had you on last time. You want to talk about your experience with the construction worker?
That got us. What started this whole thing?
Let's go back.
So the origins of PARASENSE is based off of a case that I was asked to investigate, where a young man was working in an old brothel. He was working upstairs. It's been abandoned since the 1930s, and he actually had something grope him when he was alone up there. And the sensation had happened a few times since. And so he reached out to me and told me about these experiences that he had had. And this is not the first time that I've ever been told or have been contacted about these types of encounters where, people are touched in various different ways by ghosts. But to me, it's their personal experience. How do you prove, when you tell me you've been touched by a ghost, I have to take your word for it. And so it really got me thinking. It's like, okay, well, is there something we could do to validate these encounters that people are having? And so I searched and searched to try and come up with some, experiments. I wanted to find out if there had been somebody out there, trying to prove touch. How did they do it? Looking for some sort of inspiration to help me with my goals. And to my surprise, no one had done this ever before. And so that got me down a whole unique path, trying to come up with, these experiments, trying to, validate, these encounters. And it was interesting. I was coming across some interesting results, but nothing that was strong enough to put it out there to the public and say, hey, here's some proof that ghosts can touch people. I needed more. And, and the public needs more. If anybody wants to question the fact that this phenomena can happen, we needed more data to do that. And unfortunately, the technology wasn't there, or it wasn't used correctly, or, put together in the proper way. So luckily, I had run into Chad. Chad had me on one of his shows, and I'll let him take over his side of the story.
Yeah, so from my side, it was way more wild than this, right? Because I'm just living my life. We'd done a show. I had a podcast in it that was also on LPFM here, and called Community Science Radio. And we were doing a show on fear, and so we did that show with him. That was our first one. And then I had all these ideas. He showed me all the equipment that he was using, and then I had all these ideas. I'm like, oh man, I could wonder if we could put some of these things together and start making. And I had some other ideas for listening. I don't know. I got nuts. Ross was like, let's do that. And then I disappeared because I got busy, living life. Yes. And then later that year we did a Halloween show. And so Ross does creepy stuff. So interviewed with him again, same thing, equipment. And then I didn't talk to him for, 3 years? Yeah, 3 years.
I think, yeah, it was about 3 years.
Ross calls me up on the phone and I'm like, Ross, hello? And Ross is like, hey,
who's this stalker?
Yeah, right. How would you how basically came down to how would you figure out or sense if somebody got touched by a ghost? And I came up with a couple of ideas off the top of my head. And he was like, well, I have this opportunity to shoot this show. And he's like, would you be interested in being a scientist? And I was like, yeah. And then he said, but here's the kick. The subjects are naked. And I was like, whoa. So we went, but then he told me what was going on. And I went through the philosophy and the methodology with him on what he was doing. And then it started to make sense, and I got it and I understood it. And then I had to think about it because I'm a scientist. And then if going after this, one thing about this area is there's not a lot of scientists doing a lot of hard work, right? There's a lot of people doing work, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of proper science being applied in this way. And so I was like, I'm in, I will do it.
Yeah. And a lot of it was too, me and Chad were both on the same page. Our goals are both the same. We just want to know what's going on out there. We're not trying to say, yes, ghosts exist. Here's the proof. We're just trying to say, here's some interesting data. This is what we've collected. This could be something, and one of the things, to protect Chad is to make sure that we're doing this the right way. We don't want to just.
That was one of the things I said right away was, I'm a scientist. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. There's not going to be any I'm an inventor. I don't want people to think that so I was like, this has got to be legit. And he was like, that's what I want. And that's what really sold me in, is when he said, that's what I want as well.
Yeah, we're not just, putting out stuff out there just to get subscribers, on our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. This is the real deal. If you want to have a better understanding of what it is that we are experiencing and what we can capture, this is the path that you have to take. And so we wanted to show the audience the correct steps and not to be afraid of science. that you don't have to be afraid of. I always say, of those ones and zeros. There is some, knowledge there that we can learn from.
So, Ted, what did your family, friends, and coworkers think of this?
Well, that's interesting. I think it's a shock to people. I didn't think I was going to be as comfortable doing it as I ended up being. And I think it was really about the curiosity. So Ross had taken me and showed me some locations, and he showed me some of his equipment and stuff. But that first time when we went out and filmed was like my first chance to really see how things go and be part of it. And I watched two other people have experiences, and I was like, I want to have an experience, because then I know what I'm looking for. Because in science, I either will have to know what I'm looking for or assume that I have some assumptions that allow me to find what I'm looking for, right? And so I didn't want to be assuming anything on this, and so I jumped in and did it.
And that's where we, as a society of paranormal investigators, are lucky to have somebody like Chad that was willing to put himself out there. For one, of course, people are going to judge his credibility, as a scientist. Why are you doing this woo-woo stuff? And I think, for him to at least show that he's trying to do it the right way, because unfortunately, most paranormal shows or people out there have done it half-ass, or just, in any way to, get the attention from the audience, never doing it the right way. And don't get me started on a lot of the bad equipment out there that's used on a lot of these television shows.
Right.
That's a whole nother show we could do. We just really wanted to do it the right way. And I've always said, we're lucky to have somebody like Chad who was willing to, even step out of his comfort zone to understand what it is that we're trying to do as paranormal investigators.
I think it's good to get the science in too. I mean,
it's so important. And we're at a point where millions and millions of dollars are going into the paranormal field for entertainment purposes, but not going into the research element of it.
Or if it's that there's not the principle, right? The scientific method's not being applied properly. There's a lot of people that have, experiences, or you look for a light and you have some empirical evidence that something happened around you in the space that set off something that you saw, right? You saw it, but you can't really explain what happened. All you can say is I had a beep, or I had a light, or I had a noise happen at that moment. And so when it really comes down to it, those one piece of data points you can't put together. You have to put together thousands of them and look for stuff. And so when I went out with Ross on that first time and I got naked there, he showed me his Spectre 1, which was a laptop, and it had the stuff and the cords, and it was a lot for getting one stream of data, right? But it was better. It's better than I saw a light turn on. And when I saw what he was working on, and I saw the kind of results he was getting, I decided, I also, I'm a computer programmer, electronics guy, I 3D printing, modeling. I took all those skills together, and then I was like, the one thing that we need more than anything is enormous amounts of data, so that we can monitor things continuously and in every direction we can around these people. And then that's where it started clicking and turning on. And I'm like, okay, now how many things can I actually put into the system? And then we got Spectre. So we got an array of stuff that he was already using. I added the PIR, but it was already stuff that he was using. So that was the best point, because he'd already had found information. So I just picked up where he did. We did Spectre 2.0.
So you get the 360 circum.
Right.
Yeah.
So by having the
Oh, did he freeze up? He did.
Yeah,
we were able to. We're good. We were able to track phenomena. No one's been able to track phenomena. We did it
because we're taking sample rates, of over 100 samples sometimes in a second. So we're snapping as much samples, and we're going up as high as we can. And I still don't think we have enough resolution. I think I need to find faster systems to run on this stuff, because I think then we'd get, we have jerky movement in our animation, but I want to know more smoothly what could be happening and direction. What direction are things moving? So there's some other things that we're going to add.
Yeah, because one of the things, as Chad was saying, is we're learning that a lot of the equipment that ghost hunters are dependent on is not sensitive enough or even fast enough to pick up some of this phenomena. And if you think about it, it's energy. And energy, like a lightning bolt, is going to strike really fast. And that's what we think is happening sometimes, sometimes it's so quick, and it just takes us longer to process that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the guys out of my team, he does all kinds of stuff, inventing kind of stuff, and he made like a bionic ear that is actually here, like, I don't know, like 100 yards away, like whisper.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that too, and maybe the really low subtones that we can't hear. I'm kind of interested in that kind of in that range, and then also I'm really interested in the EVP. I was an audio engineer a long time ago, and knowing that you can get signals from the air, and there's static and this electromagnetic interference patterns. I really want to build something that looks at how EVP works, and if it really is something that's just completely only grabbed by the electronics. So there's stuff like that I want to look at.
Well, it's interesting, that you bring that up, Chad, because EVPs were, captured on analog tapes, back in the day when EVP came along. And then, of course, we all transferred.
Back in my day.
My day too. I go old school as well. And it's interesting that we've completely now have transferred over to the digital era, and we've forgotten about film, and we've forgotten about, the analog tapes. And I kind of wonder if there's some evidence that we're missing out on, because those are two elements that are captured in totally different ways. They're not captured digitally like everything is today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think it's interesting. One time on one of the tours Ross gave me in the early part of it was there was the EVP was picking up, and they had their recorder with them, their digital recorder, right? And one of the things that if you have a cell phone next to it, it puts that interference ticking into the recorder, right? But what interested me about it was not only was it picking up that electromagnetic interference, but also when the EVP came through, it sounded like it was in the same range of tone, in the same, like it sounded like it was interacting. And then that's what got me on to the idea. I'm like, shit, how do we figure out exactly what that thing is? And that's one of my focuses I've been working on.
You understand so many frequencies too that you can it's just
right.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting thing about working with Chad is there's so many new doors that we get to open and test new things, because we don't have all the answers. And I think we've realized by just doing PARASENSE, we're still at the very beginning of the race. There's still so much more we need to do just to even, try and validate some of the things that we've collected just with the first documentary.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, between the baselines, we would go in and leave it running in and out of the space if people are there or not. And that's really to try to figure out if there's anything rhythmic that could be happening or interacting with any of the electronics. And then we do the experiments. Between that and the experiments, we had 10 million data points or something to that effect for PARASENSE that I had to shift through, because every minute is just taking just massive data points. So you have to go through it all, and it was pretty interesting. Some of the most evident stuff was like, it happened to us. So, you can find it.
It's kind of amazing how far we've come in the last 15, 20 years with all the stuff we have now.
Oh yeah, like we were talking
Yeah, it's
old
just
school, just we were going from cameras, and then we slowly saw digital cameras come into the field. So it's
yeah.
technology moves very, very quickly. And I think, we're getting to the point now that we can start to add more of that technology, especially as it becomes more and more affordable. That was a big thing. A lot of the stuff that I wanted, back in the day, I could never afford. Thermal cameras were,
$5,000.
$25,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now you can
yeah,
get one for, $300.
yeah.
So it's nice to have that technology more affordable and, for easy for us to grasp, and hopefully, especially with, Chad and his talents, be able to put some of this stuff together and explore a lot more and collect, different pieces of data.
Well, Ross, you had a bunch of experiments that you were doing before I even came on the scene, and a lot of those experiments are also pretty interesting to upgrade. I mean, you should talk about some of that.
Well, I think one of the things that, is really great between me and Chad and how we work well together is because, as he was saying, I come up with these, kind of raw experiments, as we've talked about in the documentary The Puppet. We kind of did a light introduction of that experiment where we take elastic string and we attach it to sensitive parts of the body, and then we stretch it out to different parts of the room. So you kind of like you're extending your nervous system into the room. And so if anything should move through these strings, hopefully you feel, a vibration or a tug. And that's what was happening. We started to have those experiences where people would feel that. In fact, Chad has done that experiment himself.
Yeah.
And
I had a pretty intense one. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So people have these sensations of being, that vibration or the tugging and pulling on these strings. And again, it's a personal experience for them. You just have to take their word for it. And so what we've decided to do as we, continue with PARASENSE is we now take what I've come up with and we hand it over to Chad and see what Chad can do to validate these experiences. So we want to get to the point where we can hook up sensors that can read the tension in the strings. So we know that there is some data being collected there. And it's not just a psychological, experience that, you are feeling something touching or something vibrating that string. There you go. Here's the data. And so that's how we work together. I come up with these raw experiments, and he takes them and he turns them into science.
Wow. It's a perfect match, you guys. But hopefully, guys don't stay away from each other for another 3 years. You got work to do.
Bored, for sure.
Yeah, work to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, what's Spectre 2.0? You think will be a 3.0?
Well, we're definitely adding more stuff to it. We've done some filming and have for a next one, and in that I've added a couple more things that. What I want to do, I want to see what's going on in the room, but I want to know what's going on around the space around the space. Right?
Remember, don't say too much.
No. Looking around the space around the space. And so we're adding a few more things in there so that we can detect that and more deeply understand all of the space around something happening.
Right. No, and we've gotten some amazing results just with that alone too, with what he's added to the new Spectre system. So we're excited to share that information as well.
Wow. So there will be another documentary for that one too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we definitely the research is not done. I still, even though Chad is busy, doing his science stuff, I'm still out there coming up with more experiments and testing new things. So I'm not done. And whenever I have the opportunity to work with Chad, I jump on it. So
Ross could do a whole Back to the Roots show. I'm sure.
No, it's great. I wish I could, utilize Chad more, but I know he's got, his other gigs he's got to do. So that's hence the stalking,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you got the experience up on your first time. So
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, no, Parasense, the Naked Experiments is kind of just our origin story. We wanted to let people know that this is where I come from, this is where Chad comes from, and this is how we come together. And now, hopefully, in the next one, people will see how our adventure continues and how we both learn from this and where we go.
Besides Bushy Mountain, do you guys go anywhere else with it?
Well, we have been to, even since filming our first documentary, we have done a few other experiments, and we did one at a restaurant, a pizza restaurant.
We took Lloyd Auerbach out on that one with us.
Yeah. So there
Oh yeah.
is.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
No,
he
we.
was there because,
I would love to see that.
Oh yeah.
because he's well respected and a scientist. It with the whole, we wanted to go have him look what we're doing too. So if he would have saw what we were doing and been like, you guys are doing us all wrong, I'm gotta like figure out what I'm doing wrong, right? But to have him out and validate that what we were doing was also good work was like great, because that's one of the things in science too, is you want to peer review and share stuff with people that understand what it is, so they can have their like, does this make any sense? And so it was good that Ross was friends with him, and we were able to go out and get that validation of our methods.
And also, too, is to help build our credibility that he can witness how we do these investigations with this equipment and know we're not faking this. This is not the magic of editing. This is not, paid actors to scream and run away. Chad's the real deal. I'm the real deal. These subjects are real people that decide to put themselves out there. They're not actors. And so to have, Lloyd there to, witness that as well is to help build our credibility.
Right. I can't imagine being there. Oh God. Do you have a video?
Of what? Just of him?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, for all the occasion with him. Did you get him to do an experiment or no?
He not do an experiment. No.
Oh, come on.
I know. He was just there to make sure we were doing it right.
Yeah, he just sat back and watched everything happen on the monitors
God.
and saw as things happen. So
I think one of us
I'll
might
bet.
have asked me,
Oh God, that was something else. Oh Lordy.
I don't know. Are you willing to do it?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might. All right.
I have to be honest. I have done it when I first started doing these experiments. I tested them out myself in on a haunted ship here in Washington. So there were a few things that I did try myself. So I have done a naked experiment. It just was not on camera.
All right. I like the puppet thing now. That'd be cool to do that. I would like to do that there, I suppose. It kind of reminds you of Hellraiser was getting only been one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing about it too is, and you don't really appreciate it so much in the documentary, is when we're doing the experiments, it's like if you look at the lux meter on the side, it's like 0 and 1. So you can hardly see anything that's going on around you. You're alone. You're 300 and some odd feet on another floor away from these guys, and it's just you and hoping, and the great thing about, and one thing we haven't talked about is the naked thing. One of the things I thought was important about that is your skin's your largest organ, right? And so if you put yourself in those situations, Ross was telling me, your skin gets more sensitive, and it puts you into this like fight or flight mode where you're just listening, and it's dark, and so you're it's almost like all your other senses pick up, and you're just like, what is that, And that's one of the kind of the more exhilarating parts about it, is the fight or flight, that you're sitting in a super haunted place in the dark,
Oh yeah.
Well, another thing is that if you can't see, I think others have to just pick up then.
Right.
So yeah, so
It's part of our survival skills, yes.
yeah.
And so it's the same thing with touch. If your whole body is exposed, your whole body gets a little more, sensitive as to what's going on around you. You're using your body as a sensor in a way. And of course, too, besides just that, how your body operates when it's naked and exposed in this, strange environment, you also have to consider the fact that if you do get touched and unfortunately you're wearing clothes, it becomes contaminated evidence. And nobody in the scientific field or anybody who's a skeptic is going to take it as proof to the paranormal.
So if you move a little bit, so you can feel like something,
Yeah, it could be your shirt, your jacket, and we really want to know what is happening when somebody is actually touched.
And it comes in different ways. It manifests differently too, right? Because so sometimes, the documentary, there's a bruise, or I've even seen other shows where there's been scrapes and what looks like burns and all kinds of stuff on people. And then there's things that come across your skin and it's just a cold sense in one area, or something comes across you in a specific way. And your body's like, that's not right. And so it manifests differently. And even like the scratch that I had received, that manifested in some different way because there was no feeling. What caught my attention was the sound. There was a sound associated with it right there, but there was no feeling. And the feeling came on a little bit later. It was weird because when Shanna was looking at it, she says that it's appearing, like it's coming. It was weird, but so we got to figure out, like, what are all the different ways it can manifest. We saw on there that the PIR went off, so that suggested that there was a heat signature that came off of it. And then in the experiments where we actually got scratched, and you see there was something moving that we could pick up. And we don't know if you can't see it, was it a dense clear object, or was it something that was thick, or was it because something was moving in some way that it moved? There's 1,000 questions based around just the data we got. Like, why did we get it? What does it even mean?
Yeah.
All right.
No,
can you explain the data collector and how it lined up with you getting touched? And now they're right now.
Yeah, so what I did was, in order to be able to do this, you have to collect the data in real time. So it has to be time stamped. Every collection point has to be time stamped, date stamped, all of that stuff, so that you can go back and look at it and you can cross-reference it. And so it made it easy with everything in the cameras being on and the time coming through. When whatever clip that was pulled out, they were able to say at this time, on this clip, this is what was, actually Morgan did even better than that. He just said, in this clip from here to here, something happens in it. And I went through the data and found it. And then he lined up the two pieces and they fit together. So, that's how precise we can be. Is he can be at this time and this time something happened. I can go look at that chunk of data.
Right. And also, I wasn't sure the name of the girl there. Do you also use the aura?
Oh, Shanna and the aura, yeah.
Yeah. That was I like that. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, that was one of the, I think, besides what we collected, having that also line up with things that was going on was amazing, because that's a separate, complete different point of I hate saying the word proof, evidence that something was happening at the same time. Because the things that, and one of the things where when I did my experiment at Brushy Mountain, the actual one, I felt like if you listen, words are being pushed out of me because it was like so much pressure and so much going on. And then Shanna and Ross were down in the HQ area, and they could actually see like those black spots coming in and out when those things were happening. And that's also what prompted me to do the experiment upstairs when I got to scratch. Was we did the experiment that failed, and I said, well, now we're going to have to test this equipment, right, and make sure it's even working. And so we were sitting there, and I'm testing it, and I started talking, and to
You
the
started
ghost.
talking shit. Come on.
Ross,
say-
Yeah.
Ross told me I shouldn't do that. Like, he's like, don't antagonize, don't do that.
Right.
But
But you
I-
did anyways. You
Yeah, but
did
I
anyways.
decided I'm doing an experiment, so I can get away
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
Right?
You're sitting there naked and you're taunting these prisoners and probably had a good time for a long time and you're taunting them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as I was doing that for that test, then we started seeing things happen, and I got more and more aggressive. And that whole experiment actually lasted a little while. We were playing with it, and it got more and more and more aggressive. And as I got more, things were happening, and then boom, that thing happened. So
And it's funny, as we talked about earlier, sometimes it's just like a bolt of electricity hitting the location. When, Chad had talked about his experience of being scratched, it almost, the best way you described it was almost like a static snap.
yeah,
right?
yeah, because there was no feeling to it. So even the scratch, it happened itself. There was nothing I could feel. So whatever it was just that sound, and it happened.
Right.
So what was that?
That's kind of weird. I can't remember the place I was at that I was sitting there deep chest session and I heard like a slap or slap, like that, like kind of like like a slap racist. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's basically how he described it as well.
Yeah, it's weird.
Ross once asked me if I could find some kind of detectors that would pick up that kind of stuff. I won't say which one, Ross, but he's been thinking about that, and he asked me to, if there was certain kinds of other detectors we could use to pick up, maybe even detectors I don't know if I could find, for things. And so there's a lot of ideas. It's just doing the one documentary, we got some suggestions that will help us move forward to the next experiments, but there's an enormous amount of stuff to do.
Oh yeah, and I've got hundreds and hundreds of experiments that I've tried in the past, and I want to try in the future. And I know Chad's got some amazing ideas, tons and tons of amazing ideas, and it's just getting both of us focused on narrowing it down on how we want to proceed with the next step, because there's a lot of interesting things happening out there, and unfortunately there's not the right equipment out there to help us track it. So Chad has to build it, and it's really starting from the very beginning. That's the best way we have to do this.
Yeah, and when we're doing the other thing we talked about is we're adding more to it in order to understand if some piece that we're looking for or data collection that we're doing doesn't make any sense to keep doing. We're adding while we're using the system, and then over time that'll help us tune in and find the things, the anomalies, and then we can get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter. One of the things I thought was really interesting was the EMF sensors that were in the array. That where we were at Brushy, there's basically no cell service. There's no Wi-Fi out there. There's no disturbances out there. And I mean, you can see there's almost no movement at all of the EMF, no spike in it. And so I'm not saying I don't believe in EMF at all. I think I've watched it myself go off in times where I'm like, whoa. But I think it's kind of interesting in those instances where we capture data that was absent. So how many ways does this manifest? That's what you got to figure out.
Yeah, so you can't be dependent on EMF.
Or how close does things have to be for things to pick up? So it's just, even that blew my mind. I was more than expecting to pick up something on EMF. And then,
well, it's another interesting thing as to why we believe that we had so much activity at the prison was there was just an electrical storm that went through that area.
Oh, that's perfect.
And according to
that's perfect, Norm.
Yeah.
And according to Barry, I talked with Barry Taff a little bit, and according to him too, having running water, so there's water under and around the property. All of those things kind of come together, and so that was one of his questions too. He's like, "Okay, so you had an electrical storm. Tell me about the property." And I told him, I was like, there's a stream, and he's like, water, like things happen around water as well, So Brushy Mountain seemed to line up really well.
Yeah, it was great timing for us.
I'd love to get there. Is that in Tennessee?
Yes, Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville. I think it's like an hour out of Knoxville.
Yeah.
I'd love that. Sounds like fun. I don't get too much anymore. But,
well, now that Chad's kind of teased me with it, he may have some free time. I may have to get him out there to do some more filming. So a little excited about that. But one thing I didn't tell Chad, he doesn't know this yet, but we're actually up for another award.
Oh, what are we up for?
Yes, we've been entered in the International Paranormal Film Festival.
Whoa.
Yes, they really wanted it, and so I think it's probably going to come out with some hopefully high honors on that.
Wow,
so.
That'd be pretty amazing. See, I learned something new all the
time. Chad, you want to talk a little bit about the EVP year?
About what?
The EVP year that you're doing.
Oh, well, what I'm doing, I can't say too much about it.
Right, I know. It's just.
But essentially, what I want to do with the system, and it's pretty complicated from what because it's requiring a lot. So when I was in radio, you learn a lot about how energy moves and transfers and flows and transmitting and all of that. And so I think it's actually going to be quite a physics experiment. A lot of trying to figure out how to exactly do what I want to do. But what I want to try to do is actually pick up and be able to tune picking up different ranges of interference. But that's the other thing too, is I got to figure out exactly what that interference is I'm looking for, and then bring it together and bring it out and test it and see if we can capture anything on any of the stuff we do.
I was terrible.
That gave you no answer.
No, I didn't want to dig too much into it because I know it's not really. But it also goes through different hertz too, as you're going through, and that can be.
Yeah, the infrasound has always been a theory behind some of the EVPs. They thought that some EVPs travel within infrasound.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of something theorized. But yeah, I love hearing Chad talk, and I love to hear about his crazy ideas and how exciting it is when he actually makes them real.
Yeah. Thanks, Ross.
I love you, Chad.
Yeah, I mean, I've been extremely busy pretty much shortly after we shot the last Parasense, and so you never know with Ross. He's gonna give me.
Yeah, okay, bro. It turns out to be like exhausted, and I'm gonna call. Hey, you want to go out this weekend?
Yeah. Hey,
no, he does love to get hit with a paranormal bug because it's really cool when he actually gets out into the field. Gets to get away from his world, and get out in the paranormal field and explore and hit that sense of adventure. So I think he really enjoys that as well because he really does love to get hit by the paranormal bug.
Yeah,
and I still like working in areas that are unknown and hard to think about. Right, that's where I thrive. I'm like, yes, that's all I want to do is think hard about things that hurt.
Yeah. This something the fourth though we guys come with. I mean, just what it came out for the last few years. And how far you took it. Yeah,
well, Parasense has been in the works for, going on close to 8 years now.
Yeah.
When we first started working on the project, I was, already 6 years into it. And then Chad came in and, we had some crazy adventures there. And, as I said, it's still a growing process. We don't have all the answers. And as he'll say, when it comes to science, you still have to do a lot more digging, a lot more failures before you all have the successes you need. And the one thing with the paranormal world is it doesn't always happen on command. You know, you
Yeah,
can't.
and you
Go
have
ahead.
to have enough data to be able to build a mathematical model to explain what you're doing, right? Like a couple of data points, you're not going to get anything. So we need enough variables and enough data that we can actually build mathematical models to help us explain what it is and why whatever that thing happened is. Because we saw two things happen at once. So as far as we know right now, something densified and something heated up, right? But we don't also know, um, maybe if we use some other things, we'd be able to figure out density. We'd be able to figure out all these different things if something's changing in the air. I've been looking at different ways to see the invisible world more clearly. And, that's where we really got to start figuring out how many different data points can we plug together to say what it is. Because we have a density, it would bounce off of us. We give off heat. We're water. We're electricity. We're all of these different things. And so that's the kind of level we have to figure out, I think, at some
Right.
point.
And that's one of the reasons, it goes back to why is there no such thing as a ghost meter? Even though there's a lot of people out there claiming they have a ghost meter,
Yeah.
to develop a tool like that, you have to know what a ghost is made of. We don't know that yet. We're still exploring that.
Yeah.
So it's just scratching the surface right now with what we've done with PARASENSE.
All right. And like over the years, my group was very fortunate to get the stuff we have. But there's times you go out, you don't get anything. But it's still fun to go out and do it. And I saw something on Facebook today that said about I go out there to something to have fun, and serious about it. And if you want to have fun, ride a freaking roller coaster. We always have fun going out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, at times you sit down, okay, investigator, how was your weekend? How's it going with it? And a lot of times we're talking back and forth. We pick up voices talking between us. We
Right.
can pick stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, as long as you go in there with no ill, then they usually will talk to you.
Right.
So,
It's one of those things that it is a challenge to collect, decent evidence to, hopefully support the fact that there's something out there. And there's so many missed opportunities when so many people just want to do it, and I hate to say it, half-ass, because they're going in with the thrill of it all just to have that experience rather than to try and validate their experience. So that's the biggest challenge we have in this field. And I've always said that there's far more lazy ghost hunters than there are ones that are really trying to have a better understanding of what is happening out there. So we could get more of that, evidence, then it'll help direct myself and Chad in how we need to pursue in collecting that data. But right now you have far too many people out there making up their experiences, far too many people, submitting possible evidence, and it was just somebody in the background talking, but they want to say it's an EVP and it's a ghost. So that, takes, myself and Chad down a dead end because they believe it's true evidence when it's not. We really need that true raw data to help direct us down the right path. And when you got far too many people muddying up the waters, it just makes it longer and harder for us to get where we need to go.
right. And to this day, I curse Photoshop for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because some stuff we don't, you know what I mean? But, I mean, I went out there thinking, I'm not going to order anything. Why would you do that? It makes your group look bad. And I was actually the founder of the group and that's the first thing I catch you ordering anything, you're gone.
Well, a lot of it people don't understand is they do a lot of it. They fake a lot of this stuff for entertainment or for ratings or for subscribers. The YouTube channels are the worst because they make more money if they can get more subscribers. So they're under the pressure to get those subscribers. And, Chad knows he's done quite a few investigations now. You don't always have something happen. It can get boring for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And that's not going to keep people interested in what you're doing if everybody's bored,
I mean, even if we did a time lapse through some of those hours, it would be a long time lapse. I mean,
it would.
When something happens, and you're like, yeah.
Well, that's like when I investigated. We had a DVR system with 8 cameras. I had 8 recorders sitting around. So it took me like 60 hours to go through all that stuff.
And I applaud you for doing that.
I enjoy it a lot, though.
Yeah, I applaud you for doing that because so many investigators out there will record 8 hours of evidence and never go back and listen to it or even watch it. And there's so many missed opportunities out there if you're not going to do that.
We did when we did the Fears show, we came to one of the, what is it you were doing in the underground?
The Spooked in Seattle tours?
Yeah, it was like a Spooked in Seattle, and people were there and they were doing, and so we had audio running the entire time to see if we could pick up anything in the background. And going back, they recorded about an hour before we went in, and they were doing, I don't remember, so long ago. Anyway.
Yeah, we recorded it in the underground, in the Seattle underground.
And then there was other stuff that was going on. So it sat there and recorded the whole time. And then I had to go back and listen to it all. And I thought I heard something because he was the girl. What was the little girl's name?
Oh, I don't think we had a name we didn't have a name for the little girl.
Oh, she had but something happened. I thought I heard a name come across the thing. And I went in, looked at this audio, pulled it out. I got it all big and everything so you could hear it really well. I sent it to Ross, and Ross was like, no, something was going on at that time. I was like, but I had to listen to all those hours, and I thought I picked up what this was.
Yeah.
Nothing,
And it's unfortunate to have to throw something like that away because, whether or not there was a true EVP, you do have to discredit it when, unfortunately, you're not recording in a controlled environment. And it's unfortunate, and that's where the biggest problem is in this field is a lot of these groups don't know how to produce a controlled environment. They don't know how to shut up when they're doing an EVP session.
Right.
It's a lot of that, and then when they
Whispers.
think they do,
I hate whispering.
they whisper. Yeah, so
it's got to be a lot of time. That's what the baseline stuff's about, is to get past all of that stuff and figure out what's going on in the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was on an investigation once, and my own friend, he has a business he runs, so he has to go out, and sometimes I have to take his recorder for him and go over it. He had like 4 hours on there, and here, the dumbass was chewing gum.
You can just hear that going on.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I told, I called him up and you dipshit. I'm sitting ranting because I love going over that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you'll get investigators that will wear really noisy clothing or shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're constantly hearing the swiping of clothes rubbing against each other all the time as they're walking around, or their shoes are making a lot of noise. It's just...
Or another thing is sometimes our investigation is where a family wants to do something, and somebody's wearing perfume.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, I personally can't stand perfume. I shit allergic to it, I think.
It's funny. Actually, Chad had a pretty good experience when it comes to smell.
Yeah.
Hospital.
Oh yeah, the hospital. There was like this. We did this experiment. It was over in Eastern Washington, and we did the experiments, and we left the room, and I went back into the room, and it was just like a perfume, a really distinct perfume, and
it was rose scented.
Yeah, Rosa, and this place was completely destroyed. The windows were broken. There's holes in the floor so big it looked like a horror movie on its own. And then you walk into this space that's basically outside, and it's just that rose smell. And then I was like, come here. And the other people came in and they could smell it too. And it was like, what was that? How did that happen?
Yeah. And we had been there all day and
All
never
day.
smelled it.
We had just done experiments in there. We went to go do a set of experiments in another room and coming back to get a piece of wire or equipment or something. And then it was like totally different smell.
Yeah, I was at a place already that had we in the basement of a historical museum and there's some lilacs.
Lilacs,
I
yeah.
can smell the air.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No, it's kind of interesting too, because we always find that a lot of times when Chad is alone, he'll tend to have some interesting experiences.
Well, we were together the one time in over at the brothel in the documentary, and it was funny because some people won't come upstairs there. They just stay downstairs. They know something's up there. The whole town does. You can go to the bar and hear stories and stories and stories. And Ross and I were packing and moving a table at the top of the stairs, and a woman pops in and said hi to the spirit. What I forgot her name. What's her name, Ross?
Oh,
it doesn't matter. Anyway, said hi, and Ross and I both heard a knock 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 noise, right? And we were both like, "You hear that?" And I walked around, and Ross also walked around. We knocked on wood and stuff in there, and nothing. The table, a chair, the wall, nothing sounded like that. What was that?
All right. What was it, Dolores or something like that?
I know. See, we got to watch.
It's right. It's right there. So yes, it's pretty cool when you have those experiences, but then it's also a missed opportunity for us when, we could have hopefully captured some data.
All right.
I think my favorite though was the door shutting by itself. That was cool.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how much time do we have left?
We're good to go if you're ready.
Wow,
sign off.
Yeah, that moved. Wow. We did it.
Yeah. You guys are so much fun, you guys. We gotta come back on again.
Definitely, we're more than happy to keep you up to date with what we're doing. We appreciate fans of the show. Spreading word on Parasense.
Yeah,
it's our first documentary. And it's unfortunately, as your first, we kind of have to do all the work to promote and get it out there. And then when they see that does really well, then they'll say, hey, your first documentary did really well. Let's talk about your second one. Yeah, let's see if we can get a better deal.
I'll go ahead and put all the link to Amazon so people can go get it. And I'll write reviews. Gotta write reviews. That's what guys get.
Yeah, reviews are really helpful for us. It really does help get it attached to other searches. So if anybody's searching for just ghost documentary, if it has more reviews, it'll be filtered out more. So it definitely does help. If anybody does watch it, please post a review, and we truly hope people enjoy it. We've got nothing but positive reviews on it. I think the only negative review we got was because the naked people were censored. So, yes, one guy gave us a bad review because it was like, these people, you can't see anything, they're all censored. I'm like,
do it.
Yeah. So they were obviously watching it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I guess so. Wow.
So I always encourage people, do check out Parasense if you get a chance. You can also, if you want to learn more about me, you can always go to my Facebook page, Ross Allison Ghost Hunter. I'm usually really good at keeping that up to date. And also, sometimes I'll do live investigations from places I'm visiting. I don't know, Chad, how do people find you?
The easiest way to find me, and I actually posted some stuff that was around the scenes of filming, and that's on my Instagram at the Parascientist.
Cool.
Okay, cool. And this show will be available on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon. So let's keep pushing this too.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome, man. Well, guys, it's awesome to have you guys on. My pleasure. How you on? And I'll have you guys back again. It's so much fun with you guys. Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah. It probably got to be Chad.
Yeah, thank you for having, and thank you for reaching out. That was really cool on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. I'm not even on LinkedIn that much, really. And I saw you down there, and I saw the Parasense. Said, hey, that's him. Let's see how you him. I never thought I'd get you on. Really, I thought you'd be too busy.
Chad's still waiting for his huge female fan base.
No, but I told him. I was like,
they keep writing me. They don't write him. They write me. It's like, Ross, is there an uncensored version of Chad? I charge for that.
yeah, he reached out to me, Ross. And after he reached out, I was like, we got to get Ross on, and he was like, okay, I'll get Ross.
It's like dollar bills, y'all, dollar bills.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we got to make both those things happen.
There was no place to tuck the bills in there. Where you at with the bills?
Oh, it's behind him. That's where you tuck them.
I'm awful. My wife will tell you that. She's funny. Oh, Lordy. Well, thanks to you guys, and I'll get back on again. So, sign off. Happy hunting, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.